May 24, 2019, New Canaan, Connecticut. Jennifer Dulos's day begins like any other. 5 children already dropped off at school, a full schedule of tasks ahead. But after she returns home, she vanishes without a trace. By evening, her loved ones raise the alarm. Her phone goes silent. Texts remain unread. Relatives contact the police, fearing the worst. Law enforcement quickly draws a conclusion. She's become the victim of an assault. Voluntary disappearance is ruled out. Her plans had been laid out in advance. The children were left without warning, and clear signs of violence are found in the home. The town reacts instantly. Volunteers comb the park. Search teams are formed. The media begins speculating on murder and local talk of the case at every turn. The hunt for her body and evidence continues, turning this into one of the state's most puzzling mysteries. Jennifer Farber was born on September 27, 1968, in New York City. Her background: father Hilliard Farber, a financier, mother Gloria, and her famed aunt, fashion designer Liz Claiborne, gave her access to many opportunities. Jennifer earned an excellent education at Brown University, graduating with a master's in literature. After college, she pursued journalism, maintained a blog, and wrote plays, all demonstrating her attention to detail and dedication to clarity. Her professional path followed a steady progression from academic preparation to hands-on reporting and ultimately to independent writing projects. Jennifer sought a balance between career and family, choosing a line of work that allowed for remote flexibility. In her personal life, she dreamed of marriage, children, and a stable home governed by clear rules, predictability, and mutual respect. The differences between Jennifer and her future husband, Fotis Dulos, had become striking long before they wed, showing up in their personalities and life values. Fotis, born in 1967, grew up in Greece. He was charismatic and competitive. Also, a Brown University alumnus who went into high-end real estate and excelled in water skiing. For him, speed, goals, leadership, and victory mattered most. He made acquaintances easily, enjoyed public attention, and favored high-intensity challenges. He did not accept defeat. Unlike Fotis, Jennifer prioritized order and the safety of her family above all else. He craved momentum, risk, and ambition. She leaned toward stability and calm. He gravitated toward pressure and public displays of success. Their differences weren't about education or social standing. They ran deeper, touching on their core values and how they made life decisions. By the early 2000s, when their paths crossed again, Jennifer had settled into her identity as a writer and future mother focused on home and family. Fotis, on the other hand, had built his world around business, physical training, competitive sports, constant travel, and goal chasing. Though they ran in the same circles of high-achieving professionals, they were aiming for very different outcomes. These early contrasts are crucial for understanding what came next. The romantic spark wasn't the defining element of their relationship. It was the clash in pace, control, and beliefs about what was normal. As the story unfolds, those foundational differences would shape their decisions and ignite the tensions to come. Their relationship began in 2004 with an unexpected encounter at the Aspen airport. Thought they had known each other from their days at Brown University, they'd gone separate ways. After a brief conversation, Fotis Dulos began sending Jennifer heartfelt letters expressing his intentions. At the time, Fotis was still married to a woman named Hillary, but that marriage ended in July 2004. And just a month later, he married Jennifer. The couple settled into a spacious home in Farmington, Connecticut, built for a big family. Children soon followed. First a set of twins 2 years after the wedding, then another pair of twins in 2008, and a youngest daughter in 2010. Their Greek heritage showed in the names they chose: Petro, Theodore, Konstantinos, Christiana, and Cleopatra Noel. Jennifer in the household with precision. She worked from home, juggling creative projects while co-parenting with the help of a nanny. She kept a tight schedule, planning activities, doctor's appointments, and even documenting their family life in a blog. The home became her world and her sanctuary. In the early years, the marriage seemed stable. Each had clear roles. Fotis ran his luxury, real estate business and kept a packed calendar as a high-level water skier. Jennifer devoted herself entirely to the children, managing their routines, school, health needs, and logistics. But over time, Fotis's passion for his sport consumed more of his life. What began as a tight schedule soon evolved into a full-on priority shift toward training and competing. His trips began to stretch up to 10 days a month. Even when he was home, his focus remained fixed on the next race. Tensions at home began to mount. Conversations turned sharp. The house filled with yelling hurtful words thrown at both Jennifer and the kids. Jennifer, who avoided confrontation, often withdrew into herself, writing things down, trying to maintain some sense of order. But the atmosphere had already changed. Decisions were now made based on Fotis moods, shattering the stability Jennifer had worked so hard to build. The core of their growing divide centered around parenting. Jennifer believed in giving their children the freedom to choose their own activities. No pressure, no overscheduling. Fotis, however, was determined to mold their path after his own. Early starts, strict routines, and a focus on winning. He immersed the kids in water sports, pushing their endurance, honing their technique, and gradually ramping up training hours. The results were undeniable. The children began excelling rapidly, but Jennifer grew increasingly alarmed by the physical strain and emotional pressure. Her pleas for voluntary participation and balance between rest and effort were repeatedly dismissed. Outwardly, they looked like the picture-perfect Connecticut family. 5 gifted children, a successful father-athlete, and a beautiful home. But inside, it was a very different story. Constant disagreements, authoritarian decision-making, and fundamental clashes over values. Jennifer tried to keep things looking normal, clinging to the family routines, but she could feel the foundation of their marriage slipping. There weren't legal battles yet, not officially, but the fractures were widening. Fotis was diving deeper into control and athletics, while Jennifer's call for respect and personal boundaries was losing its place in their home. Michelle Treonis entered Fotis Dulos' life through the water skiing circuit. Originally from Venezuela, she had spent years as a professional athlete, competing internationally, and was no stranger to discipline, training, and a life in constant motion. They met at a tournament. One of many Fotis regularly attended with Jennifer there too, watching their children. Their shared lifestyle and mutual passion for the sport brought Fotis and Michelle closer fast. Before long, their meetings became frequent. For Jennifer, the change was painfully clear. Fotis started spending less and less time at home. His trips got longer, and his presence in the children's lives grew increasingly scarce. Whenever she tried to confront him, he either stonewalled her or made it clear he wasn't going to end his relationship with Michelle. That moment changed everything. In June 2017, Jennifer filed for divorce and moved with their 5 children to New Canaan to start over. What was meant to be a structured temporary custody arrangement, detailed schedules, clear rules, turned into a never-ending battleground. Every detail from visitation times to after-school activities became a source of tension. Jennifer pushed for order and predictability, trying to create a stable environment where the kids could feel safe. Fotis, on the other hand, prioritized his own agenda, often disregarding the court-approved guidelines and asserting his right to make decisions on his terms. Michelle, once a background figure, was now a permanent presence in Fotis's life. She lived with him, went everywhere with him, and even attended visits with the children. To Jennifer, she wasn't just the other woman. She was a symbol of betrayal, a daily reminder of the life that had unraveled. For Fotis, Michelle was part of his new reality, and he had no intention of hiding it. Jennifer fought hard for full custody. She documented repeated violations of the custody schedule, described ongoing emotional manipulation, and claimed that the children were being used as leverage. She also reported that the kids were overwhelmed by the pressure of constant activities and frightened by their father's temper. In legal filings, she raised concerns about his potential for violence and the fact that he had access to firearms. The Taofam court, after reviewing the evidence, did not strip Fotis of his parental rights, but it did put temporary measures in place. These restricted his direct contact with the children and controlled interactions between him and Jennifer. Jennifer also requested that Fotis's new partner Michelle and her daughter be excluded from the children's lives entirely. Fotis saw the court's rulings not as safeguards, but as personal attacks. He made no effort to hide the fact that he believed Jennifer was standing in the way of his relationship with the kids. In conversations that would later become part of witness testimony, Fotis was quoted saying things like, "She shouldn't get in the way, that he'd take the kids no matter what, and that this would end on his terms." Jennifer's situation was becoming more dangerous. She told her attorneys and those close to her that she felt threatened and that the pressure from Fotis was growing. She even expressed fear for her own safety in formal filings. Those statements would later become crucial evidence in the investigation into her disappearance. Despite her warnings and the documented aggression and intimidation, the court still stopped short of granting Jennifer full custody. Adjustments were made to visitation schedules. Restrictions were introduced, but the principle of shared parenting remained intact. The hesitation, that failure to fully act on clear signs of danger, would prove to be a tragic misstep. The legal proceedings became a cycle of endless back and forth, accusations with neither side able to address the core issue, the safety of the children. Jennifer continued to gather evidence, fully aware that the legal system wasn't offering the protection she needed from someone she believed posed a real threat. May 24, 2019 began like any other day for Jennifer Dulos. She dropped the kids off at school that morning and returned home shortly afterward. Surveillance cameras captured her Chevrolet Suburban leaving the neighborhood and returning around 8:05 a.m. Those would be the last confirmed images of her at her house. She had plans that day, medical appointments in New York City, and later a meeting with her mother, but she never showed up. As the hours passed, it became clear something was wrong. Jennifer wasn't answering her phone. Texts weren't being delivered. No one had heard from her. It was the nanny who first raised concern. She was scheduled to switch shifts with Jennifer around noon, but when repeated calls went unanswered, she contacted Jennifer's mother. By evening, realizing the gravity of the situation, the family reached out to emergency services. A crucial detail emerged. Jennifer's vehicle, the same black Suburban, was later found parked at Wav Park a few miles from her home. Inside the SUV, investigators found traces of blood. Surveillance footage confirmed that her vehicle had returned to her garage after the school drop-off, but it left again later, and this time without her. When law enforcement arrived at the Dulos residence, they were immediately drawn to the garage. What they found there changed everything. Bloodstains, not just drops but pools, covered parts of the floor. There were splatters on the walls, smears on the car door, and signs that someone had tried to clean it all up. White marks and streaks were visible even without forensic tools, but there were no signs of forced entry. Nothing broken. No doors kicked in. That suggested Jennifer had either let someone in or that person already had access. Investigators collected blood samples, which were later confirmed to belong to Jennifer. Inside the home, more unsettling evidence was found. Moved furniture, marks that indicated a struggle. Everything pointed to one horrifying conclusion. The attack happened right there inside her home. From there, detectives pulled surveillance footage from the neighborhood. But the trail didn't stop in New Canaan. That same night, May 24th, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Traonis were spotted in Hartford. Cameras caught their vehicle stopping repeatedly along Albany Avenue near commercial dumpsters. In the footage, a man is seen tossing multiple garbage bags. A woman, later identified as Michelle, places something on the sidewalk. Police searched those dumpsters and what they found was staggering. Dozens of items. Women's clothing stained with blood, sponges soaked in what appeared to be bodily fluids, zip ties, ropes, gloves. DNA tests confirmed that many of these items contained Jennifer's DNA. There were also towels, napkins, and scraps of fabric with biological material. Among the most damning pieces of evidence were a t-shirt and undergarments belonging to Jennifer, both containing her blood and DNA. Some of those items also had male DNA, a match to Fotis Dulos. That evidence placed him directly in the chain of events following her disappearance. Security footage clearly showed Michelle Troconis in action. In one video, she's seen discarding what was later confirmed to be a blood-soaked sponge. In another, she's watching as Fotis dumps bags into a container. Her role in concealing evidence was now undeniable. What they disposed of wasn't just trash, it was key forensic material. Over 30 trash bags were recovered from various dumpsters along that route. Each bag, meticulously catalogued, contained materials with traces of blood and DNA. Investigators believed these were direct attempts to eliminate evidence tied to the violent incident. Evidence too risky to leave at the house or inside a vehicle. These items became the cornerstone of the investigation. They confirmed the violent nature of Jennifer's disappearance and established a link between Fotis, Michelle, and the attempted cover-up. Though Jennifer's remains were never found, the DNA trail connected the garage scene to the materials recovered in Hartford. And it was this overwhelming evidence that led to the first formal charges being filed. According to investigators, the planning began the night before Jennifer disappeared. In the early hours between May 23 and 24, 2019, Fotis Dulos entered the property of a business in Farmington. There he took a Toyota Tacoma pickup belonging to one of the employees. To throw off investigators and make it harder to identify him on surveillance footage, Dulos altered his appearance, shaving his head and putting on unfamiliar clothing to resemble the truck's owner. He even left his own phone at home so its signal would appear in Farmington, creating the illusion he was there all along. That morning, inside the house were Michelle Troconis and attorney Kent Main. Later, Michelle admitted she had been answering calls coming in from Greece to Fotis's phone, adding yet another layer of deception. Around 5:35 a.m., Fotis left Farmington in the stolen pickup, bringing along Abicycle. Once he arrived in New Canaan, he parked the Tacoma near Wave Park. A bus driver later confirmed seeing the truck in that area. From there, Dulos switched to the bicycle, cutting through backyards and side paths to reach Jennifer's home, carefully avoiding main roads and cameras. He gained entry to the house without breaking in. His DNA was later found on the front door knobband on a kitchen faucet, where a mixture of both his and Jennifer's DNA was recovered. A neighbor's security camera recorded Jennifer returning home from the school drop-off at 8:05 a.m. The attack took place in the garage. Fotis stayed inside for an extended period, carrying out the violent act and beginning a preliminary cleanup. Tools and cleaning supplies used during this time were later removed from the scene. Investigators believe Jennifer's body and blood-stained items were loaded into her Chevrolet Suburban. Dulos then drove that vehicle to Wave Park where the Tacoma was already waiting. The Suburban remained there for roughly 40 minutes, enough time to transfer a body and evidence from one vehicle to the other, all while keeping watch for anyone nearby. Police even searched the park extensively, considering the possibility of a burial or concealment on site, but found nothing to support that theory. Dulos then drove the Tacoma north. By 12:22 p.m., the pickup was spotted again in Farmington. At 1 p.m., he met with Michelle. According to prosecutors, they spent the rest of the day at his home sorting and collecting items to dispose of. That evening, a fire burned in the fireplace despite warm weather, which investigators believe was used to destroy some materials. Later that night, Fotis and Michelle drove to Hartford. Moving along Albany Avenue, they stopped at multiple locations, tossing bags and loose items into different trash containers. Surveillance cameras captured every stop, every movement, and the nature of the items they were discarding. Days after Jennifer's disappearance, the Tacoma underwent an intense cleaning. The seats had been removed. Fotis asked an employee named Powell to get rid of them, claiming they were stained with spilled coffee. Powell didn't throw them away. Instead, he kept them, and testing later revealed Jennifer's blood on the seats. On the day of Jennifer's disappearance, Powell came to Fotis's house twice and noticed details that later became key evidence. The Tacoma's keys left in the driver's door were suddenly gone. Other than Michelle, no one else was in the house. Later, Fotis asked her to bring the keys, indicating she had been using the truck herself during that critical time frame. The phone tactic was part of a carefully crafted plan to avoid tracking. Fotis Dulos's device remained at his home in Farmington, and Michelle Trunis answered a call from overseas, creating the illusion that his phone, and by extension, he was still there. Further adding to this deception, at 7:47 p.m. during the time bags were being disposed of, a call was made from Fotis's phone to Kent Moyney. Phone records confirmed it. Michelle Traconis's role in the case changed significantly after authorities analyzed surveillance footage from Albany Avenue in Hartford. What initially seemed like passive involvement quickly shifted to active participation in covering up evidence. Her statements to investigators were riddled with contradictions. Across 3 separate interviews, Michelle changed her story multiple times. First, she claimed she woke up with Fotis on the morning of May 24th, that they were together, and he simply went into the home office. Later, she admitted that he wasn't there at all. At first, she denied being involved in the day's logistics, but eventually conceded that she had ridden in the car with Fotis and moved around town with him. When asked about footage showing her discarding something on the sidewalk in Hartford, she said she had gum stuck to her fingers, even though the video clearly shows her tossing an object. Michelle also tried to portray the evening of May 24th as a casual coffee run or preparation for a house showing, explanations that didn't match the GPS data from the car's dash cam or the contents recovered from dumpsters. Investigators saw these inconsistencies as deliberate misdirection, a clear sign she was actively involved in hiding what had been done. Attention then turned to Kent Moyney, a close friend of Fotis and an attorney. Case files show he was at Fotis's house on the morning of May 24th. Initially, Moyney denied visiting the home at all, but later admitted he had arrived around 7:40 a.m., waited 40 to 50 minutes, and left after failing to reach Fotis. When asked for more details, he claimed that the next day he'd fallen down the stairs, broken his phone, and lost part of his memory, making it impossible to turn over the device or recall key information. Then came a key discovery. Phone records showed that at 7:47 p.m., while bags were being thrown away in Hartford, Fotis's phone placed a call to Mahin. When questioned about it, Mahini simply said he didn't remember the conversation. A deeply unsettling incident tied Mahini to a remote hunting property where he was a co-owner. Just before Jennifer's disappearance, someone discovered a freshly dug hole on the property covered with branches and a barbecue grate. Inside were bags of lime. After Jennifer vanished, those bags disappeared and the hole was quickly filled in. Police didn't find remains during their search, but given the timing and the nature of the concealment, they considered it a potential prep site for disposing of evidence. This led investigators to examine testimony from Mahinsek's wife, who had previously reported domestic abuse, and expressed concern about the close connection between her former husband and Fotis. She feared they might act together. And these warnings made before Jennifer's disappearance began to look eerily prophetic. Based on all the evidence, authorities believe the roles broke down as follows. Fotis orchestrated and carried out the primary actions. Michelle provided an alibi, manipulated location data, and helped conceal evidence. Minnie played the role of legal strategist, advising and covering for Fotis, verifying his presence at critical times, and possibly arranging the use of the hunting property. The contradictions in Michelle and Mo's statements, their refusal to hand over devices, memory gaps, and timeline discrepancies all support the theory of coordinated involvement. At the heart of the conspiracy and evidence tampering case stood a triangle: Fis Dulos, Michelle Traconis, and Kent Moyney. Even without a recovered body, prosecutors built a compelling narrative of coordinated planning, execution, and cover-up, backed by surveillance footage, phone records, and DNA analysis. January 28, 2020 was set to be a turning point. A critical emergency hearing was scheduled in Hartford. Prosecutors were pushing to revoke Fotis Dulos' bond and have him taken into custody immediately. For Fotis, it was a make-or-break moment. If the judge sided with the prosecution, he would be behind bars that very day. Fotis was expected to attend the hearing with Anna Curry, a former colleague and close companion, but he insisted they drive separately and meet at the courthouse. Anna left first, but soon she received a troubling call from one of Fotis's attorneys. The GPS signal from Fotis's ankle monitor showed he hadn't left his Farmington home, a direct contradiction of their plan. Anna tried to reach him. No answer. Realizing this wasn't just a delay, she called emergency services. Responders arrived at the house within minutes. The garage was closed. Inside, they found a vehicle running engine on. Fotis Dulos was in the driver's seat, unconscious. The air was thick with carbon monoxide. Oxygen levels were dangerously low. Nearby, photos of his 5 children lay beside him. A sign this was no accident. Paramedics performed CPR on the spot, used oxygen masks and a defibrillator. They managed to restart his heart, but his condition was critical. Fotis was airlifted to a specialty hospital equipped with hyperbaric chambers. Despite the efforts of medical teams over the next 2 days, the damage was irreversible. Fotis Dulos passed away on January 30th, 2020, without regaining consciousness. His death automatically ended the criminal proceedings against him. A note was found in the car, a final message. In it, Fotis denied any wrongdoing. He wrote that he would not spend even an hour in jail for a crime he did not commit. He also stated that Michelle Traonis and Kent Minnie had no role in Jennifer Dulos' disappearance. That letter sparked intense debate. The defense framed it as proof of a failed investigation. Law enforcement pushed back, arguing that it did not negate the weight of the physical evidence, surveillance footage, DNA links, phone records, and eyewitness testimony. Reactions were deeply divided. Fotis' family said he had been overwhelmed by pressure and the weight of the accusations. For investigators, the loss of their prime suspect created a major roadblock. With Fotis gone, they could no longer question him or uncover the own truth they were still chasing. What happened to Jennifer Dulos? The investigation into Michelle Traonis and Kent Moyne continued, but for the 5 children left behind, the aftermath was devastating. Custody remained with their maternal grandmother, Gloria Farber. Just before Fotis' passing, the children were taken to the hospital in hopes they could say goodbye, but he never woke up. January 28th exposed the fragility of the entire case. The man at the center of it all caused death over trial, leaving behind denials and most painfully no answers to the question that haunted everyone. Where is Jennifer Dulos? After Fotis Dulos' death, legal attention shifted to those closest to him. First to stand trial was Michelle Traonis. Her case, launched in 2020, faced repeated delays due to the pandemic and procedural challenges surrounding evidence, all of which heightened public interest in her role in the events of May 24, 2019. Prosecutors argued that Michelle helped Fotis destroy evidence and fabricate an alibi, pointing to her inconsistent statements during multiple police interviews. The defense painted Michelle as a manipulated woman, unaware of the full scope of her actions, merely following Fotis' lead, but the jury didn't buy it. In January 2024, Michelle Traonis was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and hindering prosecution, confirming her involvement in covering up what happened to Jennifer Dulos. In May 2024, she was sentenced to 14.5 years in prison. The court made clear that her actions were not accidental. Her role in the cover-up was intentional and sustained. Meanwhile, the case against Kent Moyne remained open and was being pursued separately. His name came up frequently during Michelle's trial, consistently tied to the larger alleged conspiracy. Michelle's trial marked the first time someone was formally sentenced in connection with Jennifer's disappearance. The verdict sent a message. Even without a recovered body, accountability would be pursued for anyone who helped conceal the crime. For the public, it was proof that the long investigation had produced tangible results. But for Jennifer's family, it brought only partial closure. The central mystery of where her body is remains unsolved. After Jennifer vanished, her 5 children were placed in the temporary care of their maternal grandmother, Gloria Farber. After Fotis's death, that custody became permanent. Beyond basic needs, housing, education, healthcare, and emotional support, the family also had to shield the children from intense media scrutiny and create a stable daily routine. One of the greatest challenges was Gloria's age. Raising 5 teenagers required extraordinary energy and resources. A support team was assembled, including educators, counselors, and medical professionals. Extracurricular schedules were carefully planned to help the children feel a sense of normalcy. Special focus was placed on their mental health, helping them cope with the loss of their mother, the trauma of the case, and living in the public eye. At the same time, legal and financial matters had to be resolved. The family worked to ensure the children retained legal rights to their mother's estate and to establish contingency plans in case Gloria's health declined. The absence of Jennifer's body left a legal gray area, delaying inheritance proceedings and the long-term arrangements necessary to protect the children's future. In 2023, Jennifer Dulos was legally declared deceased. This ruling allowed her family to finalize critical legal and administrative matters, including securing property rights for her children. For Gloria Farber, Jennifer's mother and the children's guardian, this meant moving from temporary care to long-term planning, establishing trust funds, appointing a backup guardian, and formalizing the children's education and healthcare expenses. Years have passed since Jennifer vanished. Yet the central question remains, where is her body? Investigators have pieced together the likely sequence of events. One accomplice has been convicted, and others have been formally implicated. Still, her final resting place is unknown. Without her remains, investigators can't fully reconstruct what happened in those final moments or determine a confirmed cause of death. For Jennifer's family, this means a constant, unresolved waiting. The legal system may have brought some form of closure, custody secured, her death legally recognized, but emotionally Thestery remains open-ended. They've never had the chance to hold a funeral, to lay her to rest, or to have a place to visit and grieve. The absence of a body isn't just a legal complication. It's a lingering source of pain and uncertainty. As of now, one person involved in the cover-up has been sentenced. Another is awaiting trial. But the question still hangs over everything. Where is Jennifer? The investigation continues. Authorities remain committed to following every lead, no matter how small. Their search isn't just about justice, it's about giving her children a place to mourn, a sense of peace, and a lasting reminder that their mother has not been forgotten. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.